Welcome to the second episode of the American Dream Podcast, brought to you by Perry Real Estate and myself, your host, JC Shively. This is a show that I'm creating to hopefully help people achieve the American dream. The last episode was sort of an introduction to the platform. This episode is going to be based on jobs. That's the central theme of this show. There's always going to be some housing market news and some commentary from myself because I am a real estate agent. And so that's also intertwined with the local economy. These are the sorts of things that we're going to talk about on this show. And I've dug up some really great information for you guys. So I hope I can give you a little bit of guidance to jumpstart your journey, because gaining a meaningful career is such an integral part of achieving the American dream. All right. Which brings me to my first segment, the Keeping It Real Talking Points Memo, which happens to be, don't always trust the headlines. You guys know how much misinformation there is out there. We live in a data-driven world, an internet-driven world. Don't trust the headlines. Statistics and the outlook on the housing market, they really don't look that bad, despite some dishonest, fear-mongering news outlets. The Daily Jeff recently shared a Times Gazette report that cited a forecast by Zillow. In their description of the forecast, they said, quote, "Home sales will likely plunge this spring." First, let's address the word plunge. Most people see that word and they think of property values, not sales. The Times Gazette picked this up by USA Today, and the Jeff picked it up from the Times Gazette. They just copied and pasted the story. Okay, the implication of that is that we're about to see a drastic decrease in home values, but that could be further from the truth. This is livelihoods that we're talking about. These are people's entire lifetimes of investments. Property values are a very serious thing. To just flippantly throw out there that the values are about to plunge, not only is it dishonest, but it is outright clickbaiting. Upon further review of this report by Zillow, the report actually says that property values will decrease 2 to 3% and then quickly rebound. So it turns out when you ignore the headlines and click into the report, what you find is that property values aren't really plunging at all. The NAR, the National Association of Realtors, any movement on property values below 3% to them is not a significant drop or increase. Okay, so it's when we go over 3% that we start to see or consider that a significant change in the market. So that's the first problem with saying that property values are plunging. 3% is not plunging. The second problem with this report is that it's done by Zillow, okay? Now, Zillow is great for the consumer, but as far as forecasting the market, that's not really their greatest expertise, okay? They're what we call an automated valuation model, okay? They're an AVM, so they're an algorithm that collects data, and that's how they come up with these forecasts. The problem with AVM forecasts is they're often riddled with out-of-date information, and they do not adjust for issues like property condition and seller concessions, okay? Seller concessions affect the property value or the property sale quite a bit, because in like an FHA deal, you can get as much as 6% of the property in seller concessions. So on a $100,000 house, the sale of that actual house could be as low as $94,000. So the actual report itself, first of all, did not forecast a plunge in the market, and it was done by an AVM, which all realtors know to be sort of a consumer thing that you keep an eye on. but they're not a real authority in housing statistics. I follow another guy by the name of Lawrence Yun. He's the chief economist for the NAR. So, I mean, this guy, that's all he does is observe the markets, observe the housing market, unemployment. He's an economist, okay? And he's hired by the NAR to monitor the market. And he recently had what I feel like is a very telling quote. Consider that the jobless rate shot from 5% to 15% in New Orleans following Hurricane Trina. However, it soon fell to 5% within a few months of reopening the city and from massive disaster relief funding. Though not comparable because flood is different than fear, the current massive pandemic relief is providing support to lost income. Savings have doubled during the pandemic and could turn into spending very soon. So, that's more on the unemployment rate, but it plays into the stability of the market. And though there are definitely some local signs that things are slowing down, our biggest issue is with listings, right? The one thing I'll give the Daily Jeff credit for is they interviewed my broker Peggy Perry recently, and in it she expressed what I'm expressing, that we're having an issue with listings primarily. We need listings. So property values are steady, buyers are steady, we just need more listings. So the idea that the housing values are plunging, it's absurd. Keeping it real here, don't always trust the headlines. Up next, the next segment is going to be about jobs in rural Ohio. So we're going to talk about local business and local economy. Usually urban areas grow at a higher rate than rural areas, but before the pandemic, economics professor Mark, I want to say it's Partridge, said the fact that Ohio's rural and urban job growth are nearly comparable is pretty significant. Usually urban areas, you're going to see more job growth, but prior to the pandemic, what we were actually seeing was comparable rates, which brings me to ask the question, what sectors of the society or the economy are growing in rural areas of Ohio? I looked up a report of the top 100 fastest growing jobs in Ohio because I want to know what advice can I give people like yourself to prepare to take full advantage of this job growth. So if jobs in rural Ohio are growing, I want to provide you guys the pathway to take full advantage of that growth, all right? There's no surprise here, that list that I found on Zippia.com, it's dominated by medical fields, okay? So I've got a list here, top 100 fastest growing jobs in Ohio. I'm going to say the first 10 of them are all health related, which is not a bad thing. But there are some other ones in here too that are not health related. Not everybody's cut out for the health field. What I wanted to know was what jobs in the health sector are growing and what jobs out of it are growing. What I see when I look around our own area, looking for growth, I see that the stats reflect, what we find when we take a drive. We have the Muskingum Valley Healthcare putting in a great state-of-the-art facility out there by Southeastern Med. Southeastern Med is also putting in a cancer treatment center here locally. So what we're seeing is that the stats reflect reality. Other jobs on that list include CDL drivers, plumbers, chefs, carpenters, electricians, and mechanics, all right? So then I asked myself, if these are the areas of the economy that are growing, are the local institutions providing programs to supply people with the credentials that they need to get these jobs? What I actually found is that they are. They are providing programs for people to take advantage of this growth. The first one I'm going to mention is right north of us in Tuscarawas County. It's the American Professional Truck Driving School. Now, before I did this research, I had no idea that we had a driving school literally that close to us. So just as quickly as you can drive to Zanesville, or just as quickly as you can drive to St. Clairsville or Caldwell, you can drive to this truck school, which is quite amazing, really, because that means all you have to do is get the financial aid together to take advantage of this program. One of the financial aid things I wanted to bring up about this school is that there is a scholarship that's worth up to $6,000 per student provided by the Truckload Carriers Association. So that's pretty cool. So what about Mideast Career and Technology Center? Shout out DMP. So I wanted to know what kind of adult programs are they offering there that are going to be in demand, right? Specifically, what I'm looking for is programs that the economy there's a demand for that job, right? So if you go through this program, you know there's a job waiting at the end of it. Mideast Career and Technology Center, the health occupation programs, RN program, multi-skilled technician, practical nursing, paramedic. What else are they offering? IT, technical services, coming fall of 2020. So as medical infrastructure is built, as we grow economically, more and more IT services are going to be needed. So the Adult Education Center at the Mideast Career and Technology Centers offering IT. So what about trade programs? Commercial and residential electricity, heavy equipment operator, power lineman, and welding. Some really cool programs that, these jobs are going to be in demand. When you're finished with these programs, you should be able to relatively quickly get a job. Zane State, let's move on to Zane State. Engineering technology programs. I got a buddy that just graduated from Zane State, the electrical engineering technology class. He's already employed. Boom. So as soon as he got out, he was able to land a job with that education. Industrial systems engineering, mechanical engineering. What about health? We're talking a lot about health. Health information management, medical assisting, medical laboratory, occupational therapy assistant, physical therapy assistant. Zane State's also offering a 2-year science degree with a health concentration. So as much demand as there is in the marketplace for people that are educated on health things, I imagine that's a pretty safe bet too. I gotta also bring up OUZ. I'm an alumni there, so shout out Bobcats. They have a great nursing program there. If you're looking to get into nursing or RN, LPN, OUZ has a great program. They just invested a ton of money in that program. They tore down a beautiful library to do it, which I didn't really agree with, but I suppose you got to do where there's demand in the marketplace, and there's a demand for nurses in the marketplace. If you're interested in taking advantage of any of these programs, typically your first step is filling out a FAFSA. This is the form you fill out to apply for financial aid, okay? And all of these institutions allow you to pay for your tuition through FAFSA loans and grants, all right? There's also often trade-based scholarships for financial aid. So I told you about the Truckload Carriers Association and their $6,000 scholarship. Usually trade organizations like that are going to offer some sort of financial aid or scholarship program. I know, for example, the Ohio Real Estate Commission, we have an education fund that all the agents and brokers pay into, and anybody that wants to become an agent or a real estate professional, they can actually apply to that research and education fund for financial aid. So if you happen to fall into a category of people that let's say you don't qualify for FAFSA financial aid, you either make too much money, or let's just say you made some mistakes when you were younger. You filled out a FAFSA, you went to school for 3 semesters and you dropped out. Now you owe all that money and you can't fill out a FAFSA. Then look for scholarships. Be creative about your search, but the trade organizations or the lobbying organizations for whatever field it is you're trying to get into, they're often going to offer some sort of financial aid program that you can try to take advantage of outside of FAFSA. Job and Family Services also offers programs that you can apply for to get into skilled trade programs. So I know for a fact, a while back, they were offering a CDL program. So I don't know the exact specifics of the financial aid that they were offering there, but how cool is that? You can go to Job and Family and apply for financial aid to take the classes in Tuscarawas County, and relatively quickly you could find yourself in a situation where you weren't making very good money to now all of a sudden you're making a good livable wage. All right. Now I have to say, it's not always the case that you need a skilled trade or an education to get a good job. All right. Sometimes it's just about getting in at an entry level and working your way up the ladder, which kind of brings me to my guest, Michael Port. Michael has a pretty lengthy resume. He's a Byesville Village Council member, a member of the Byesville Business Association, a member of the Guernsey County CIC, and he's on the board at the Guernsey County CDC. So when you talk about being inside meetings, talking about economic growth and jobs and development in the area, I don't know that you could find a guy that knows more about it than Mike. All right, Mike, thanks for agreeing to come on the podcast here and have a conversation with us about local jobs. So the first question that I want to ask you are, what are some jobs coming to the area that you're aware of that other people might not be aware of?
Sure. Well, there's a lot of big things that are in the lineup. We've got the power plant, obviously down there just south of Byesville. Right now, they're continuing to build that. That's 1,000 new jobs, basically construction jobs. But then we're going to see about a permanent 30 jobs that will be at that location. It could wind up being a little bit more than that, but that gives you an idea as far as the power plant goes. There's some expansion projects. I know Colgate just did some addition as well. They're looking for 30 more new people. A lot of those jobs are entry level. Some of them, obviously, some experience with factory work, forklifts, things like that are beneficial to get a job there. Metallurgia Vanadium. They actually expanded into Muskingum County, and as well as the ethane cracker plant in Belmont County. Here's the thing. Even though they may not be right here in Guernsey County, they're going to have a huge impact because they're going to provide opportunities for our residents right next door, whether it be in Muskingum County or whether it be in Belmont County. The ethane cracker plant's looking at 450 new jobs. That's a lot of jobs. And I don't think they're going to get them all for Belmont County. So they're going to be, they're going to be posting for jobs and some highly skilled people to work those jobs in that area.
So that's actually, that plays into exactly one of the things I was saying earlier in the podcast about Tuscarawas County and the CDL school that they have there. I think too often we put ourselves in a county box when we should be looking at the whole kind of southeastern Ohio region and what we're seeing in growth there, which you kind of already went into it. But what do you think people need to do to compete for these jobs? Is there anything specifically, I guess with the jobs you're kind of bringing up, these are jobs just a matter of going, lining up and trying to apply for them, and right? I mean, that's it basically, right? Entry level stuff, right?
Sure. Well, some of them are going to be higher paying, higher mind, skill sets, high tech jobs, especially with the power plant. Those are going to be higher paying and higher tech jobs, probably with the ethane cracker plant as well. But there's going to be some general labor positions available at those places as well. So skill set, I mean, it would help to have some vocational education, as well as there's all kinds of apprenticeship programs through steel workers and things like that are, and plumbers, that they wind up having these apprentice programs, and all people have to do is just apply and really just have a desire to learn.
Yeah, so I think that plays right into a lot of the things that I'm trying to bring out in this podcast. A lot of this has to do with just a matter of having the drive, right? The want. I think you and I have discussed privately before. You one of the points that you made to me was that the jobs are there. Right? The jobs are here. A lot of these people are just having a hard time, or a lot of these companies are having a hard time just finding people that'll do them, right?
Absolutely. One of the big things, we have a drug epidemic here, obviously, not only in our county, but throughout the whole state of Ohio. And a lot of these companies, they're losing employees because they can't pass drug tests. So they're looking for people that desire to stay committed and fulfill the responsibilities in these jobs. CDL opportunities are absolutely huge. You got these companies with the oil and gas. You've got these water companies that are supplying water, whether it be on the dirt roads or to the oil and gas companies. So a lot of opportunities in the CDL code as well. So, and there's actually some resources available for CDL classes.
Yeah, that was was going to be my next question. What are there any programs or resources that you're aware of that can help people land some of these skilled trade opportunities? I brought up a couple earlier in the podcast, but maybe you can just go over some of maybe some that I haven't included. So,
well, for one, you have the Job and Family Services has a CDL class where you can go and take these CDL classes. And I don't know if there's an income requirement there, but I know an individual who took it, and it didn't cost him anything to go and take the CDL classes, and he went through the schooling, got his license, and boom, landed a job. And of course, Zane State also has CDL programs. They also got a lot of these different degrees or certificates that you can do for these oil and gas jobs that are out there as well. So a lot of different opportunities out there as far as these resources. If you're looking to start a business, there's resources there too. The Guernsey County CIC has all kinds of opportunities as far as different loans and things. You've got the Small Business Development Corporation that winds up helping businesses, especially smaller businesses, to get started. So there are a lot of different resources and things that people might not know. So take opportunities. If you don't know, ask. That's the only way you can really learn.
Yeah, so that's that plays into some of the next things I wanted to kind of bring up, which I guess you've kind of went over it already, but I'll just ask you anyways. What are some ideas that you think could help stimulate the local economy or local economic activity? Do you think that there's areas that maybe we may be able to help somebody explore, or what creative ideas do you have maybe that could help stimulate the economy locally?
Well, I truly believe that with the power plant coming in, the ethane cracker plant coming in, county over, I think that what we're going to see is we're going to see more businesses come here. I really do. As you start building these major opportunities, you're going to see even some business parks open up. People are going to be looking for land to develop these business parks, industrial parks, and that will be critical. You and I have talked, about this would be a great area for a lot of industries to be at. 70 and 77, we're at the crossroad, and there is land. There is land available. The CIC actually has a list of all these properties that are available for development, and many of them are 50 acres plus. That are available, for businesses.
So you're reading my mind here with our back and forth. My next question, and then I'll have one more after that, and then we can wrap this thing up. But as I speak to people locally, and this is going to be kind of a hardball that I'm going to throw at you here, but this is something that people talk about around the coffee table, at Denny's or some other place, or even at the bar kicking back a few beers. You hear a lot of times people want to blame commercial landlords, leaders in our area that prevent business growth. And usually, this is not me saying this, but usually what they say is that it's either high rent or tax abatements. Now, I'm kind of new to the business community, so I don't know if there's any validity to these claims, right? Are the rents too high? Do we have leaders out there that are actively obstructing economic activity through tax abatements? Do you see any of that going on?
Absolutely not. As a matter of fact, one of the things, we just had a CIC meeting a couple months ago. We've taken a break because of our current situation. But one of the things that we talked about at our CIC meeting is how to market this area much better. And I think that's what's absolutely critical to stimulate the economy is that we've got to market this area better. We've got to market what we do have. You look at the village of Byesville. I'm going to piggyback on that because I'm a councilman there. But we've got a lot of smaller buildings downtown, and the rent down there is $400 to $900 for a lot of these small businesses. Some of the other cities in our county would charge a lot more. But in the village of Byesville, you're looking at $400, $500, $600, $700, $800, $900.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a lot more reasonable. Now, I want to talk about abatement for a second because a lot of people don't understand it really. They think that just because a business wants to come here, we can give them abatement. The problem is abatement generally is only done on new properties, okay, new buildings. So let's say like Kmart, for example. Kmart is a building that is already built. So there's not going to be any tax abatements per se there because of the fact that it's already a building that's already been established, So there isn't any construction work or anything like that as it pertains. I will say this. I dug a little bit and I did a little bit of research on it too because I wanted to make sure that I'm right. But one of the things that I found out was that Guernsey County is one of few Ohio counties that continue to offer community reinvestment area tax abatements of up to 100%. So, and it goes on and says for real estate tax for 15 years, 12% for retail or commercial projects, and here's the key, for qualifying construction. So that goes back to what we were talking about. So when you look at the power plant, that was a new project, an extremely expensive project. And there was tax abatements that were given by the school district. And many times that's where the abatement has to come from, is from the school districts.
Okay, that's great. Which, I think one of the things that's most shocking to me about this conversation that we're having is the idea that you can get, a downtown location for a small business for under $1,000 a month, and in some cases as little as $400 a month. I think that's a really valuable information for people to know, because I think most people just don't know that, Mike. And if they did know that, then they might be willing to take a risk on downtown Byesville. They might have a creative business idea that they're willing, to pull the gun on, because now they know how much it's going to cost, and it's not as overwhelming as people typically think, I think most people assume to get a downtown commercial, rental in Byesville that you're going to run up over $1,000 a month. So that's incredibly valuable information that I think we're giving to people. So I appreciate you taking the time to come on the podcast, and you being the Renaissance man that you are. I'm probably going to be calling you for another episode somewhere down the line. All right. So thanks, Mike.
I'll try really hard to get back to you quicker.
That's fine, man. I'm bad too. So, All right, Mike, have a good night, bud.
All right, man. God bless.
Bye. All right. So I just want to thank Mike again for participating in this podcast. He's always a great, fun person to have conversations with. Occasionally, I'll call Mike. My intention to be on the phone for 5-10 minutes, and it turns into 45 minutes, and we're talking about everything you could imagine: job development, economic opportunities for people. We're talking about small businesses, politics, you name it. Me and Mike go way back, and I appreciate him being a guest on this podcast. And if you're an expert in any field, and you think you could contribute to this podcast like Mike did, don't be afraid to reach out to me. I'd love to have you on. So we're going to move on to our closing segment. I'm going to talk about entrepreneurial development, small businesses, and how a person can take a creative idea and grow it into a business that can contribute to our local economy. I want to encourage everybody, if you're a contractor or a real estate investor, a landlord, what have you, I'd really like to see some movement and some effort put forth to revitalize some of these neighborhoods and make them attractive again. I'm a huge history buff, and when I see old pictures of some of the neighborhoods in our communities around here. It's quite amazing how beautiful at one time they were laid out. I'd like to get back to that, So let's stop thinking of the landlords as the bad guys, because they're not always the bad guys. So how can a person that has the entrepreneurial spirit, person with a creative mind, how can they use that to create a positive impact on the economy by starting a business? All right, so the best resource that I know for you, if you're this type of person, is the Muskingum County Business Incubator. And I cannot preach enough about the value of this program. They help people with raising money for their startups, the business models, marketing plans. I mean, from beginning to end, they'll help you bring your idea to a reality. If you don't know about the Muskingum County Business Incubator, check that out. Then there's also the Byesville Business Association, which I am a part of, where we're trying to do a similar thing. Not necessarily for startups, but we're trying to get local businesses together and think of creative ways that we can create a better economic environment in Byesville. Anytime that you can get brain power together on these kind of things is a plus. The other thing that I'll bring into this, though, is ideas, that bring outside money in. That's paramount in this. It's one thing to have a good pizza recipe and add another pizza shop in town and compete with all the other pizza shops that are already here, which I'm not going to discourage you. If you have a good pizza recipe, by all means, competition is a good thing for the economy. So I say go for it. However, if you're the type of person that has an idea that brings outside money in, I'm going to really encourage you to check out the Byesville Business Association, get involved with the Business Incubator, because the difference between bringing outside money in and just kind of keeping the money here, it grows the economic base when you bring outside money in. An example of this is the CDC's Byesville Kids Museum. This is a great example of an organization trying to create an atmosphere that attracts outside money in. Those are the best ideas because they help really lift the local economic base. The reason that I do this, they teach us in real estate school that the economy base is what feeds the real estate market. At the end of the day, the healthier the economic base is in the community, the better my business will be, the better all realtors' businesses will be, and the better all businesses will be. We're all fed. I'm not the only one. Real estate's not the only sector of our economy that's being fed by the economic base. Things like power plants and hospitals, these add to the economic base. I encourage anybody out there with an entrepreneurial spirit, a business-minded person, a creative person, if you have ideas that can really help add to the economic base, then I say go for it. I think that's just about all I got for you, all right? I just want to help people figure out how to do this stuff, If you know someone who can benefit from this podcast, tag them, share this, start a watch party, all of that good stuff, okay? Spread it as much as you can because this is good, solid information for people to have. And until next time, this is JC. This is the American Dream Podcast presented by Perry Real Estate.